Code check 1 2.
Hi guys, welcome to episode 7, right, of Profit Talk. Tonight we're going to talk about finding new sources, like out of the way, out of the box, like Dusty was talking about, and how to determine acceptable profit margins for your business. Those were kind of the two things I'd ask people, what they wanted, if there was anything they really wanted us to talk about, and those were two of the things that kind of jumped out at me. The acceptable profit margins thing, I say leave that for the second half because that one can get kind of involved and boring.
I've got a couple things when we get to that actually are things that I'm dealing with right now, so I will probably talk a lot. Not that I don't normally.
Well, you're the one that, you remember last week you said something about going to, your little mom and pop places out in the middle of nowhere, and instantly it was a bunch of people. How does he find those? What is he talking about? Is that something that can be taught? So how do you go about finding new sources and kind of out-of-the-box places to go and source for your business?
So that's... No, let somebody else go first. If that's cool, let me finish a couple things.
How do you find somewhere new to source?
I don't. I'm very dedicated to Goodwill shopping around me just because we have so many. There are 25 to 30 Goodwills here, and so I've gotten very familiar with the different ones and what they have to offer, because each one tends to have its own pricing system and what they get a lot of, where I keep finding the same kind of thing at that same location. So I have about 8 or 9 that I frequent. I'm not a big Salvation Army shopper. I don't know, I hardly ever find anything good there. And I rarely go to Savers. But yeah, I have recently started. I've said for a while that I'm not a retail arbitrage person, and I'm not. But if I'm at a store, I'll look. But one thing that I have been focusing on lately is hardware stores, because I noticed that I'll find a lot of clearance there, and they're not all in one place. So it's almost like people have to put a lot of work in to find the stuff that's on clearance. You have to walk up and down every single aisle. But they're easy to spot because they have yellow tags. But there's some good opportunities there that, you can find some good deals if you take the time. And so that's something new, that I've started doing in the last 2 months.
So, because you actually messaged me one day when you were in like Lowe's or Home Depot asking me, like my Lowe's, it's spread through the store, but then they have like an end cap, and I've always gone to the end cap, and it sucks.
It's nothing good. Yeah, the stuff that's on the end cap sucks. It's like it's that Walmart clearance where it's $29 and they marked it down to $27.
So I wanted to pick your brain. So you're and then find out how you did it, if you don't mind sharing your secrets with all 28 people that are watching right now.
No.
Well, at least there's not 128. But
we will break you.
So what's the key to finding like Home Depot and Lowe's?
Honestly, like I said, you have to walk up and down every single aisle. So if you're a person that exercises, you might, instead of getting on the treadmill, go to Lowe's and walk up and down all those aisles. I'm sure you get in a mile or two just doing that. Because the ones that are on the end cap, they're not good for some. I think they put those on the end cap to draw attention to them, but they're not very deeply discounted at all. Or the stuff that I find on the end caps aren't necessarily profitable. It'll be a lot of filters that aren't selling well and things like that. I think almost maybe it's oversaturated. Like maybe that's only where people are looking. And that's why the prices are so low or not profitable, because that's what they're finding and that's it.
See, for hardware stores, I like the little mom and pops that you have in your towns. when they decide something's not selling, they really have to get it out. We have a place here called Stevlin's Hardware, and they are above and beyond the most expensive freaking hardware store you've ever seen in your life. But their clearance stuff is like, I mean, pennies on the dollar for, just about all of their items. And we have one of the True Values. Ours is called Drew's True Value. And they have, like, I've even gotten Melissa and Doug toys. For some reason, they have Melissa and Doug toys. And they don't let them sit there for very long before they just clearance them out. So those, and I actually, well, I don't go to Stevlin's very much just because I don't.
Is that one of those like? Is that one of those like cool little in an old building, and they carry all the cool? Because you said Melissa and Doug, most hardware stores don't have that, and they got like the cool old timey toy section, that type of store.
Kind of.
We have one like that.
Like this one, it's more like in the center of the aisle. They've got this area of like wooden toys. I don't know. And it's not always there. Like, it's not always wooden toys. Sometimes it's like, I don't know, straight from China little tchotchke toys or whatever. But it's a cool store just because they've got a million different kinds of things. Like, I like going in there anyways. But a lot of the stuff that they sell, for me, it's out of the box because it's not what I would normally source. It's not what I would normally do RA to find.
Right.
But they do the big yellow, clearance tag, so you can't miss it, and you do have to walk up and down all the aisles on that one too. But that's funny that you said hardware stores, because that's one that I've kind of gotten into. And we have a Shopco Express. I don't even think Shopco's everywhere, but I've been surprised by that one. It's not out of the way in any way, but it's somewhere that you wouldn't think would have anything decent. And
I think it's really important to keep up with like what everyone else is saying that they're getting their stuff at, because all of those places, I don't even bother. So like Walmart and Target, Big Lots, it's like why even go there? There's 2,000 other resellers that are buying the exact same thing, because generally those stores are very nationwide, kind of across the board, gonna have the same stuff, and it's all gonna be on clearance. So.
Are you walking?
No, my feet hurt, so I'm going back and forth like this.
It's like
I've been standing up all day.
Really weak.
No, I've been standing up all day because I was shipping, and so my feet hurt. So I'm kind of going back and forth on them like this.
Don't you have a chair?
I guess I could get a chair.
I rearranged my room and I can't remember where I put it.
Right. I organized.
I don't sit in my eBay room. Like, you can see, like, the treadmill's, like, right over here. If you can see it, it's right there. But, yeah, I don't have a chair in here. I don't sit in here. I sit in the living room. Oh, look, my kid brought me a chair.
Now, see, I know a couple people, when you talk about, like, let's say Lowe's and Home Depot, I know a couple people who are really good getting replens type items from there that are items that just, they have a listing already in the input category, but nobody's really figured it out. So they have limited competition, and they make really good money. I mean, they got some $9.99 items that they easily double their money after fees. I've just never really gotten into it. That's why I wanted to pick your brain. I mean, I know where, like Lowe's, they have those end caps, and I've seen stuff mixed in, and I'm like a pro when it comes to like Target or Walmart. I can spot a red tag a mile away, but I have never done it on Lowe's or Home Depot. That's why I didn't know. And
it's kind of, I mean, they're easy to spot because, like I said, I mean, they have some bright yellow stickers at Home Depot, and I know Lowe's has a different color sticker too. I don't remember if it's yellow or orange or whatever, but I mean, you can spot it, between all the white stickers, But yeah, you do have to walk up and down the aisles. But since I've started doing it, and I'm not even doing it on purpose. I'm just there anyway because my husband's got to get something for his business or whatever. And while I'm there, I'll go up and down the aisles, and I've found some really good stuff that I wish like I could find more of it because it was like I had bought that Cooltron cooler. It was like an igloo, and it hooked into your car adapter so it would stay cool or hot. It did both. And I got it for $10, and I sold it for like $79 on Amazon FBA, and
Wow.
it sold within like a week.
You know, a good place to get stuff like that is like the RV show. You know how when the RV show comes through town? Well, the last day of the show, they normally mark down all of the supplies that they have in there. We went to one in Michigan, and I got one of the coolers that plugs into the car. Only mine's the soft-sided bag. And we were there on the last day, and they had marked everything down to 75% off. And you know, anything that has anything to do with an RV is ridiculously priced.
Yeah, I think, you know, just finding new things to source, you gotta really get outside of the box. I mean, just, like I said, I stay away from any, like, if I was doing retail arbitrage and that was, like, my business that I wanted to do, I wouldn't be at Walmart and Target. I would find some other store that just is different than everybody else, because I don't want to compete with so many people, you know.
That's why a lot of people say to find the regional items.
I think that's everybody's dream.
I
think, like, when I first started thinking
like, there's
about
stuff here that I think is regional, you know, that I pick up. I assume it is. I don't know.
Well, I tried that, like, you know, like in Texas, Whataburger is a really big deal. And Whataburger came out with, apparently, it's a hamburger place. Mm-hmm. It's been around for 50 years. And their ketchup is supposed to be, like, the most amazing ketchup or whatever. I don't like Whataburger, but people do. And they actually released, like, the ketchup in a bottle, like at the stores. And, you know, like, and then I saw on Amazon that people had started to sell it, and they were selling it for like $19, and I'm like, it's like $2. You know,
I did that with Arby's sauce Christmas before last. They released it like November or December, and it was bottle of horsey. And we were on our way back from Memphis, Tennessee. We had gone on kind of like a sourcing trip and visit some friends, and we had a car full of stuff. And we're coming back from Memphis. We're going to the podunk town in Mississippi, and I go through. Tristan's like, I want Arby's. We go through the drive-thru, and I see a sign that says, "Get a bottle of Arby's sauce or horsey sauce for $1." And I'm thinking, you know what? For years, I've like always just stolen extra packs because I like that sauce. Now I can have a bottle. And so I say, hey, can I get a bottle of each? And she's like, yeah, the lady at the drive-thru. And she gives them to me, and we get about 2 blocks down the road. I look at Tristan, I'm like, scan those barcodes. And there was a listing for them. So immediately for the next 3 hours in the car, I'm racing home, and I'm like, I'm actually looking on the map, seeing where the nearest Arby's is, like off the interstate. And I sold them for $19.99 for a 2-pack. You got one of each, one horsey, one Arby's sauce. I paid $1 a bottle, so it cost me $2.
I would totally pay that for Arby's sauce.
And I was merchant fulfilling them. And then I created another listing, or there was already one there that was like 2 signature sauces. There was another listing with 2 Arby's or with 2 horsey sauces. So yeah, I mean, just even little stuff like that. And I did really good. And they didn't bring it back this year because I called Arby's corporate, and I was like, are y'all going to bring it back? Because I want to be the first one on it and like jump in and try to make a bunch of money. So, they didn't do it again.
So how do you find like little mom and pop, you know, resale shops that you might not, like junk shops? How do you find junk shops like out in the middle of nowhere? Just driving around, or is it more word of mouth? Because like that's the only way I've ever found places like that is, you know, word of mouth.
I mean, if I sit here and mentally go through like my list of my favorite little places that aren't in the yellow pages, that aren't going to show up on that thriftshopper.com website that lists, you know, and you can rate your favorite thrift store. If I think of the, you know, the mom and pops and the junk stores that you can't find any other way that I go to on a regular basis, I mean, 3 of them are storage unit buyers, and I met them from going to storage units years ago. Now, for somebody that goes, hey, I don't do storage units, why not? Doesn't mean you have to buy anything. Look in your local newspaper, look in the legal section. That's where most of them advertise them. Or you can go to auctionzip.com, or, you know, there's lots of different ways to find storage units in your town. You can call the storage unit places and say, hey, when's your next auction? Go to the storage units. I mean, there's going to be, depending on
They
where you're
put
at.
them in the paper.
Yeah, in the legal section of the paper. Our town actually doesn't have a paper anymore, except on weekends. Everything's online now, so I guess that's technology and
But
change.
they still should have a public notice section because
Yeah.
it's required.
Yeah, now you can actually search it
I mean,
online.
it's a requirement by law.
But, you know, find the storage units, and when you go, depending on how big your town is or how many auction buyer or storage unit buyers there are, there's going to be between 2 people, and I mean, typically there's going to be 30. I mean, all the ones I get average probably 30 people. I mean, there might be 100 people there, but just start walking around. Just walk around, act like you're on your phone, eavesdrop. You'll be surprised how many people you'll go, yeah, I sold that at the store last week. You know that. You remember that? Oh, you know, old men love to talk. You know, especially in the country. And you know, remember that item I bought last week? Yeah, I put that in my store and I got $50. I mean, just turn to them and say, hey, I don't mean to be nosy, but I hear you say you have a store. You know, like come shopping sometime. Where are you at? That's all it takes. I mean, I found mine because I knew those people. I'd made friends with them from going to the auction and buying auctions. But you could do the same thing without ever buying an auction. And I have 3 stores that I go to on a regular basis. They buy the auctions, they haul the crap in, I buy from them. And that's how I found them, was years ago from going to auctions. Couple others off the beaten path. A couple of them were just driving by. You know, I'm one of these people that if I'm going from point A to point B and there's a country highway in between that's a 4-lane country highway, I'm going to get off the road and probably wind around just to see what I can find if something looks interesting on the map. You know, I found a couple of them that way. Just asking around, you know, if you overhear, just keep your ear to the ground. You're in a regular chain thrift store. If you see a couple resellers and they're sitting there talking, or people love talking with the cashiers, and you hear them say, yeah, I was down at that shop, you know, that new thrift store that opened the other day, or that new junk store. Just turn to them and say, hey, did I hear you say there was, you know, where's it at? I haven't heard of that one. It's really about networking and talking to strangers. It really is.
I have stranger danger. I can't talk to strangers.
Dusty's not good at being outspoken and open with his personality.
I know, right? God, could you open up a little?
He's just like shy and reserved.
Oh, I forgot to tell you. Okay, so my mom called me today, Dusty, and she was like, y'all killed me with that niche thing. She was rolling. And she was like, Dusty, that accent, man, that boy is hilarious.
All that money I paid for French lessons, I bought him some.
That was so funny.
Awesome.
She likes you too. She thinks you're funny. Anyways, okay. So that's some pretty good ideas. I know I like to do the whole Sunday drive thing. You know, just pick somewhere pretty, you know, to go and drive. We used to do that all the time. We don't hear so much, but I found some pretty cool places like that.
Stop it at, you know, country gas stations or ghetto gas stations or just neighborhood gas stations in general. They're kind of like the hairdresser or the barber shop. I mean, they know everything in that area. Mm-hmm. Just go in and ask the cashier or ask somebody that's standing there checking out that looks like they're from around there. Hey, are there any good junk stores around here? You know, just ask. That's all you got to do. So I'm done.
I know a lot of us are familiar with it, but I know some people aren't because I've seen people ask. But do a search of your town because there are tons, I know hundreds of groups here in Austin that sell stuff. I mean, where you can post your stuff for sale. And you can find some really great stuff. I sourced a torch kit for a welding thing. Some lady's husband had accidentally bought 2 because he couldn't find the one he had, and he found the one he had. And it was new, and she wanted $100 for it, and that seems like a lot, but I sold it within a week for like $250.
Nice.
And so it's easy to source off of there because there's nothing. It's not like garage selling where you're kind of like you have a time limit. You know, all you have to really do is say I'm interested, so that way you're first in line, you know, on the post, and then you got a couple minutes to sit there and look it up, you know, and see is it worth you buying, and you can always say, oh, I'm sorry, my husband didn't want it, or I don't need it, or whatever. But yeah, that's a good thing to do. So just look up your town or your city and, you know, for sale or garage sale. A lot of them are called, you know, garage sale sites or for sale site or whatever, but on Facebook in the search, and it's different groups.
I know the ones, ours think they've got gold. The mommy groups especially. They're like
Well,
selling
I
you.
noticed on
Oh,
mine that people, I can't sell anything on ours. Nobody wants to pay the price I want, but I can find things for really cheap. You know, the ones I don't like are the ones that post like a screenshot of Amazon and then like their item, and I'm like, you're not Amazon. You don't get to get
no.
Amazon. You know, it's like, what?
No. If it was my group, they'd be gone. This is an Amazon. Okay, so what were you talking about that you wanted to, with our acceptable margins? Dusty, you said that you had something going on right now. Oh, are you typing?
I was typing in the side chat. Did it mute me?
Yeah.
Sorry. For those of you in the audience that don't know, when you're in a Hangout, if you're typing, your computer recognizes it, because in here, apparently I have a loud keyboard, the click, 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 and it mutes your microphone. So, you know, all right, I'm done. I was trying to answer stuff over there.
You're fine.
I know I tend to get, and I'm not apologizing, I know I tend to come down and say, and I joke about coffee mugs. I tease Ronnie Hart all the time about selling clothing, and it's really because I hate selling clothing. I mean, he's good at it. He obviously makes a living and a decent living doing it.
But he says he doesn't like it.
But he doesn't like it, and I tease people. Yeah, Ronnie will tell you that he totally hates it, but he's like, it's where the money is. The money's too good. I can't help but, I got to do it. But, I tease people, and I always joke about coffee mugs and that people get into clothing and things like that. I mean, you were talking about profit margin, and I said, well, there's no money in it. I mean, sometimes there isn't. If you're listing a bunch of run-of-the-mill coffee mugs, I mean, yeah, you're going to have a hard time, especially if you have limited listings, you're going to have a hard time by the time you pay all your fees and everything else, and you sold 5 coffee mugs this week at $7.99 a piece with free shipping. I mean, yeah, it's not going to add up, and at the end of the week, you're not going to feel like you made a whole lot. But I was in a conversation earlier with in Facebook messaging with another reseller, and I said, you could totally make a living selling. As much as I bash on coffee mugs, not a thing in the world wrong with it. I've got a coffee mug listed right now. I've sold a lot of Starbucks coffee mugs. I'm just pickier on them if they're not worth $24.95 or $24.99, because that's where my business model is right now. That's just me. It's taken me years to get to that point, but I really have to concentrate on $24.99 to $29.99 items and up, unless it's something I have multiple quantities of, like Army hats or Vagisil or whatever. So had to get that one in there. But you could totally, we were talking about it, and I said, you could totally make a living selling coffee mugs. If you went through and only picked, because I've seen some thrift stores that are 15 cents because they hate coffee mugs. Most of them typically around here, they're 25 cents. If you went through and that was your business model and you had enough listings, eBay allowed you to list enough items a month where you could list, at least 500 items a month, let's say. You could go through, buy 25-cent coffee mugs, only buy the ones with advertising. This is what he and I were talking about, or cartoon characters. I mean, don't buy Jimbo's Roofing Company. That's something local that nobody's probably going to buy, but buy the ones that there might be a market for out there. That are licensed characters or casinos or whatever they would be. If you listed 100 of those a day, and think how many listings you could knock out if you just did an assembly line style and did picture, took pictures of all 100 of them, or did them in blocks of 50, and then went to your computer, listed them, hit sell similar, changed the title for each one. Even if you sold them at $9.99 with free shipping, and you made sure they weren't the ones that would end up getting kicked up to priority because they went over 13 ounces, and you made it a point to list 100 coffee mugs a day times 30 days, that's 3,000 items a month you'd be listing. If they all eventually sold, that's $9,000. What was it we said? Even if after you had to drop the price and whatever else and drop them to $7.99 free shipping, even if you only made $3 profit a piece, that's $9,000 profit you would make. That's $100,000 a year selling coffee mugs.
I would get a job.
I mean, you would.
Well, you know what I mean, but I couldn't.
But for somebody that said,
The thing
I
is,
guess, and that would be an
yeah.
acceptable. That for most people that say, man, I'm not listing the coffee mug if I'm only going to make $3. But if
I
you were
mean,
doing
it's
like that, go ahead.
Sorry,
no, I think
it's
it's
buggy
totally
tonight.
acceptable business model if that's what's available to them. I think we take for granted that we have availability, or maybe even just the knowledge or the money. Maybe we have more money to invest up front.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people that can't go out and do like I do and drop $150 in a day, and that might seem small to someone and go $150, but to other people, $150 is a huge deal that they can't spend that on inventory. They've got $25 and that's all they've got. And
Right.
so, and then they've got 2 thrift stores in their area, and it's like, okay, what are you gonna do? So it's a little different whenever you can either A, have the money to invest, or B, you got more resources. If I only had $25, I got lots of stores that I could go to. I could find that 1 or 2 treasures that I could turn that $25 into $100 or whatever. Some people don't, and all they have is clothes, coffee cups and plates and stuff, that people donate, and toys, used toys, stuffed animals. And I think that's why a lot of people start there too, is because it's a low investment. I did the same thing when I first started business. I started with coffee cups and stuffed animals because I could get a bag of stuffed animals for $2, and there's 15 of them in there, and there would be 2 or 3 in there that I could sell for a reasonable amount of money and, risk.
I think that's a lot of the whole acceptable profit margins thing is,
It's very personal.
It really is. That's why I was kind of a little iffy about it, because my acceptable profit margin is going to be completely different from Deb's, and it's going to be completely different from Dusty's. And, a lot of people will say, okay, I want at least 3 times, what I spent, or I want at least 5 times what I spent. And it's not like I can say, hey, you shouldn't be buying that because there's not enough money in it. Well, if that's what you can get and that's what you're comfortable with, then that's fine. That's your business. Do it that way. As long as you're making money, as long as you're not losing money on your purchases, if you're comfortable with it, if you're comfortable with making $1 profit on your products, more power to you. Just be aware. Go ahead.
Sorry. No, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
I keep thinking that you're pausing, but I think it's glitching up.
Yeah.
I think I've seen in the groups a lot that people can get really insulting to other people when they've got something they're really excited that they sold, and they're like, oh my gosh, I bought this for $1 and I sold it for $12.95. Woohoo, go me! And people like scoff at them, like, oh, that's my everyday, that's my whatever, but that's what they have available to them. They don't have a bunch of winners that they can go out and find those really amazing items all the time. And so you have to do, with what you have. And
Right.
if that's what you have access to, then you work with it, and but that doesn't mean you stop learning, so that way you don't miss those treasures that might show up, those one in, once in a while little yays that happen to show up at the thrift store. But yeah, I do see a trend sometimes in the groups, and I'm a member of a lot of different groups, of people being kind of insulting on people's profit margins. And it's just, hey, if that's the business they want to do, that's the business they want to do. I don't have time anymore to list coffee. Actually, the other day I was like, I kind of miss doing stuffed animals because it was so easy. If I really got dedicated, you could whip through some stuffed animals, and if you priced them for $10 and you had 300 of them, you could assembly line some stuffed animals, and they don't break.
I was going to say, they're wicked easy to ship.
The category is pretty much virtually the same every single time. You can do a generic description that says in good use condition from a smoke-free, pet-free home, whatever, shipping is blah, blah, blah. and you could literally just
12 inch, it's 12 inches or 4 inches.
Price the same, boom, boom, boom. But it's and I for years I sold items. I hope I don't come down on people, and I don't mean to be that way, but I kind of feel like I want to push people too, because when I look back, I spent a lot of years selling 19.99 jeans. There wasn't anything in hindsight. There wasn't a dadgum thing wrong with it, especially when you're paying $3. But I think I wish I'd have got out of that earlier and started setting my. I wish I'd had. Maybe it was the knowledge. I didn't have the knowledge yet, but set my sights a little higher and start looking toward $19.99 items or $29.99 items, and a lot of that came with knowledge, because I've amassed. My wife always likes to call it, I'm a fountain of useless knowledge. But I have a lot of knowledge about a lot of useless crap. But I can walk into a thrift store because I've done it for so many years, and I can recognize the value in a prosthetic leg, or I can recognize the value in a random electronic item that 15 years ago I would have passed right by it. But now I know, hey, I saw those, or I heard about those, or I've seen them on eBay completed, or I've sold one of those, and so my eye will go to it now. And that came with time. But, for a lot of years I did, items where I'd make $10, $15 profit. It was a lot more work. So my business model now, as I've gotten older and slowed down and maybe lazier, I don't know, but probably. But, my business model has changed to where my profit margin, I do higher profit margin items, but I still have a lot of little items. I still have little hat pins that have liquor company on them. I bought 100 of them for $2 for the whole bag. They're all the same. I get $4.99 free shipping, and I sell a couple of them a week. One pin paid for the entire bag. So why not? I have lots of little items like that I still sell. But I've gradually kind of moved up here where I'm selling bigger items too. So just keep plugging away on those little items. Sell coffee mugs, T-shirts, was what I was talking with this other reseller about tonight. He's like, I've thought about it. He goes, because where I live, we find the coolest, and he was showing me what he got tonight. He got a Led Zeppelin T-shirt, a Jimmy Buffett T-shirt. He got, there was a couple other ones. They were just cool shirts that had, name brand stuff on them. He's like, I can get these for $1 all day long, even if I sell them for $14.99 with free shipping. He goes, man, you add enough of those up, and that's what led into the coffee mug joke, and then we started talking about the reality of that. He goes, man, I could make a living. And his cost of living and standards of living are he's got a family, and he lives in a state that's more expensive, and he goes, I could make a living doing this if I wanted to just sell T-shirts. It could totally be done. I would just have to list 50 of them a day on a regular basis.
The only thing for me is that I don't want people getting stuck there. I like when people ask me that question, because people, what do you want, when you buy something, what kind of profit margin are you looking for? Whatever. Ideally, at least 3 times, but I love, 4 or 5 times what I paid. But, you've got people, I can't afford that. And, so they're starting lower, like we've been saying, but so many people seem to stay there. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
I feel like I wish they would move up if this stuff is there or whatever. I guess my fear is for people to get stuck in that, having to work so hard and bang out so many, like they have to just keep, busting ass, knocking out all these, listings or whatever constantly day in and day out, instead of upping the game just a little bit, upping the profit margin a little bit by going to something else. Does that make sense?
It's just something about they have to, you have to be resourceful and do the research in the stores, and I think people get comfortable in their area of expertise and they don't want to move out of that area and take a risk. And you can cut down on that risk a lot if you'll do your research. All you have to do, and I used to say this, I said this last year in the eBay Mommy group, and I was like, hey, just one item. Go find one item in the store that you wouldn't normally even look at. Buy it. If you normally do clothes, go over to Housewares and buy something over there. It's a $10 risk, and see if it works for you. You know, you never know. Go find and I started doing it myself where I would step out of my comfort zone and I'm like, all right, I don't know anything about this, but I looked it up and it seems okay. I'm going to buy that and see if I can turn my $8 into something.
Right.
I mean,
And then as a result, you discover a totally new niche, for Danica's mother. Hey,
right.
Mom. Niche, Mom. So, you know, you discover, I hope she's watching. You discover this totally new, she's going to hate me now. You discover this totally new niche that you didn't know anything about then, Deb, and as a result, you go, wow, I sold that, I made good money. Now, you know, guys, spend your time, get on. I mean, when I can't sleep at night, you know what's fun to me? I look at eBay completed listings. As geeky and nerdy as that sounds, I look at eBay completed stuff, and every single time, it never fails, I discover something new that I didn't know about.
But that's the thing. You have to constantly be learning. You need to constantly be learning either, you know, if you're not on Amazon, read a little bit about Amazon every day if you want to make that jump. You know, if you're stuck in a niche that you hate,
Niche.
whatever. You know, learn a little bit about something new. You know, if there's something that interests you, just a little bit, 5-10 minutes every day.
So
you know?
I think to answer the question on, you know, what is there, my percentage generally is I like to at least make sure when it's all said and done that I get double my money. Now that's not my goal, you know, like that's not where I, you know, if I have a pair of shoes and I bought them for $7.99, I'm going to list them for $39.99. But if somebody comes around and it's been a slow day and they offer me $25, I'm going to take the $25, you know, and I turned around and after fees, you know, what I make, $8 or $9. You know, that's not the $25 that I wanted to begin with, but I still made money and I can take that and turn it and get something else, you know. So I would say minimum I want double my money back.
Now, if I can get multiples, I'll go lower. You know, I don't mind taking, you know, lower, especially if it's something like replenishable. Replens.
Oh yeah, if it's got a quantity of 5 or 10, at least 5 or 10 or whatever, then I don't. Then as long as there's money and it's a seller, then really, honestly, for me, profit margin becomes like I don't really care.
Negligible, yeah.
It really becomes negligible because I don't. I'm going to make money regardless. It's super easy to do one listing, quantity 50. That's 90% of the work. Then from that point on, it's just throwing a bubble mailer and printing a label every day and collecting the money.
Yeah, but then it's more like it becomes more of, okay, what's the total that I'm going to make on this versus how hard, you know, how quickly and easily, you know, is it? Or that's how it is for me on, you know, something that I can get over and over or, you know, get a decently big quantity of it. Then it's more like, okay, so once I sell all these total, this is how much I'll make.
Now, I do factor in, you know, and when I was in, I'm trying to think of a good example. I mean, when I was in Florida with Chad, you know, our picking styles are really, really similar, but, you know, I would walk past items and he'd go, why aren't you getting that? And I would say, because it's just too much work. He doesn't mind shipping computers or shipping vintage stereo speakers. I hate big items. I don't keep big boxes. I don't use peanuts. I have a limited, I mean, I get big rolls of bubble wrap, but I hate shipping big items, period. Because for me, then it means I got to make a trip to FedEx, my little mail store, to drop off a FedEx package. That's 20, 30 minutes. As lazy as that sounds, there's got to be really, really good. Then my profit margin goes up. Like cameras, I come across old 35mm cameras all the time. I bought some a couple weeks ago from one of my storage unit people, and it was kind of a package deal. And I immediately thought, God, why did I do that? I mean, I will pass on, and Chad was looking at me on some of the stuff. He's like, man, that camera's worth like $30. They want $5.99. Why aren't you getting it? And I said, because I got to clean it. I got to clean the lens. I got to get my little brush because camera people are really picky and get every speck of dust off of it. I've got to take at least 12 photos. Then I got to bubble wrap it when it ships, and it's going to be an odd size box and whatever else. The amount of work involved wasn't worth it. I mean, but I'm also in a place where I have other items to list and to sell. Had I not had anything in my name to list, then yes, I would have grabbed it. So you know what I mean? My profit margin goes up based on how much back stock I have that isn't listed yet versus how much time is going to be involved with that one item. You know?
Right.
I'm not going to go out and grab VCRs, even though there's good money in VCRs right now. I'm not going to go out and grab them necessarily because of the pain in the butt of shipping them, and that's just me. And I have time. I have other things that I could be listing and messing with, rather than spending an hour, which is what it would take me because I'm really picky, on packing up a VCR. Does that make sense, or did it come out?
No, it absolutely does, because I don't. I mean, to be honest, even Amazon stuff, if it's big, I don't.
You don't mess with it because there's more work involved.
Nope.
That was one thing when I first started doing parts that I didn't keep in mind. And so I was buying these units and things that I had to clean, and clean very thoroughly. And it was taking a lot of time. And so that's one thing that I pay attention to a lot now, that I'm like, I'm not buying anything that I have to do a major cleanup job, you know, on. Because I was buying a lot of rotisseries and things, and some of those were just really greasy and gross. And, you know, you can clean them, and they clean well, but, I mean, that can take an hour of your time. You know, is it really something that I want to do? You know, so I've started keeping that in mind. I've gotten away from the really big items, but I still do sell a lot of larger things. I'm not scared of larger stuff. I mean, I've shipped air purifier systems that were, you know, 3 feet tall, and like, I've done all kinds of different odd things. So I'm not afraid of those in any way, but I've gotten away from having to really clean things a lot. That's why, you know, recently I threw away a lot of coffee makers. I was like, why did I even buy this? You know, like, it's all yucky. I don't know what I bought this for.
Isn't that funny how we change, though?
Yeah, I think that happens to a lot of people, especially people that are like me and they don't list things right away. You know, they buy them and then they'll sit there for 6 months, and then you turn around 6 months later and you're like, what the hell did I even buy this for?
What was that thing?
You know?
Jeff said he puts VCRs in a padded flat rate envelope.
He probably does, too. No, I'm kidding. Actually, I bought something from him that was in a bottle. He packaged it very well, and it made it all the way from California to Alabama in very good condition. So Jeff packaged as well. But let's see,
I know somebody has, though.
Wheeling and dealing with Wheelie 5 said, I don't do big stuff either. I do mainly clothes and small use for collectible items. Since I'm in a wheelchair and big items are hard for me to deal with. Plus, I like the profit margins on the clothes. I totally feel you. Since I'm on crutches this week, I totally feel what you're going through, and it makes you stop and think, you know, because I'm trying to shuffle around this room, and that's not a wheelchair. I mean, that's crutches. It's, you know, but similar thing, and it's difficult. It's extremely difficult. It limits you to, you know, what you're capable of doing, and I mean, I'm trying to get things off top shelves and in here cussing and everything else, so I totally feel you on that one.
Now, does Wheelan have do you have a job, too?
Does Wheelan have a dealin'? Was that what you started to say?
That's what it sounded like.
I think, does Wheelan have a job?
I do not know.
I thought, there's too many people.
I'm trying to keep up with the side chat.
Yeah, no, I can't keep up. She said call her Wheelie 5.
Call you Wheelie 5. You know,
but that's like the movie.
I remember
Johnny 5.
I totally forgot that.
Johnny 5.
Johnny 5. That's awesome.
But, you know, and I know that was a crazy example, and I would probably pull my hair out, but stop and think, if you sit and run the numbers, because if you've got 5 or 6, and I mean, that's something you could find at chain thrift stores, even if you didn't do the licensed ones or the ones with cartoon characters, what if you picked the ones that had notable China patterns, you know, even if you branched out into those type of coffee mugs where people would be looking for a replacement for that specific pattern, you know, oh my gosh, we have that and I broke 3 mugs last week or whatever. I mean, if you could churn out, I mean, it would get boring, but as far as a small item, you know, if you were working out of an apartment or like, you know, like Wheelie 5, you were limited to doing small stuff. I mean, you'd have to figure out if you listed 100 items a day in the first 30 days, I mean, of course, some would be sold and out. You'd have to figure out where to put 3,000 coffee mugs. But if you came up with a decent system, stored them in priority boxes, numbered them, put them on shelves like what I have here, I mean, you could put 3,000 coffee mugs and went all the way to the ceiling. I mean, they wouldn't take up that much space. I mean, I would get bored with it, I admit, but when you do the numbers and you run it, even if you only make
It's viable.
for every 3,000 you sold, it's $9,000.
That same concept works for all kinds of smalls. So I mean, it's just like me doing parts. I'm not selling them for $40 each. You know what I mean? But it's one unit and broken down. It probably cost me 50 cents a part or whatever, or $1 a part. It's the same kind of concept. It's not exciting by any means. I'm not sitting there like, woohoo, here's a hose. You know, like. It's not an exciting thing, but it definitely pays my bills. You know, I mean, so nobody's knocking smalls by any means. And you know, if you can take something like, you know, like an appliance and pay, you know, $10 for it or $8 for it, and turn around and sell it for $100 worth of parts, that's a great turnaround, but it's the same concept as buying something for, you know, buying 8 things for $1 and selling them for 10.
I mean, I met another reseller at a yard sale here in the south part of town about 3 or 4 years ago, and you get a feel when you walk in that they're a reseller because you're looking at all their merchandise. A lot of it's still new in box. It's a random mix. Like, I don't care if you have 10 kids, you could never have that much interest in that many weird, unrelated, random things. And then somehow I ended up in the garage. I probably asked, do you have anything else? And they had shelves and shelves and shelves of bread makers. Like I said, this is when we moved here to Huntsville. It's probably 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. And shelves of bread makers. And so then immediately I just like, do y'all have a repair shop? Or if you don't mind me asking, they said, no, we sell on eBay. And I said, you do good with like whole bread makers? And they said, no, we part them out. I mean, they literally, because bread makers, unless the prices have gone up, most thrift stores, bread makers were cheap because they couldn't give them away. Mm-hmm. I know at our thrift store they were super cheap. And they said, we will on average buy a bread maker for between $3 and $5. And they said back then there was $50 worth of parts in every bread maker.
Oh, yeah. The main part on those things is, I know everybody grabs the pan and the blade and the little thing, but the thing that's worth a lot is the belt.
Huh.
If you look up belts on some of those machines, they're really kind of pricey. You'll get more money for the belt than you will for the pan.
You know, if you had the patience to do that, I mean, you could make, if you live in a
decent... especially because you can say that it's original, like it's, you know, an OEM, that it's an original part for the machine. It's not a aftermarket, you know, off-brand or whatever, because it came off the machine, so you know it's the real one.
Still smells like bread.
I didn't even think about them having a belt.
People have been saying that the bread makers smell like marijuana.
What?
That they're buying them. I saw that a couple of times. I think it was in Guild Money that the bread maker smelled like weed, and they're like, what? And people were saying that it's the yeast. That yeast will start to smell like that eventually in the machine.
People are hiding their weed in their mom's bread maker.
One of my favorite recipes, and I can't remember it because it's been years, and instead of doing a bread maker, I would get a bottle of whatever kind of beer you like, preferably something that has some good flavor to it. I always like to use Guinness because it was dark. But I would get a bottle of Guinness, I'm trying to remember, don't quote me, I'll probably butcher this and somebody will correct me in the comments, but I want to say it was self-rising flour, and then it was like a little bit of salt, because beer basically has all the ingredients to make bread, and you put all that in a simple loaf pan, put it in the oven, and you'd bake it, and it made incredible bread that tastes like Guinness beer, and it was that easy. Like, bottle of beer, pour the flour in, mix it up.
Guinness is gross. I don't want your bread.
Well, yeah, but it doesn't taste. It's not like you know like chewing your beer. Well, I guess it is kind of like chewing your beer, but like to me that's what Guinness is. Guinness is like chewing beer, but the beer bread, it's not like such a strong taste. Like it's such a strong flavor, but it is super good. I actually had to buy bread yesterday. I had to go to the store and buy bread.
You bought bread? Oh my goodness!
I'm like.
Where you're like eating it with disdain. You're like,
yeah, I was kind of looking down my nose at it, like, whatever.
So acceptable profit margins. I mean, I don't think I'm changing the subject. Sorry.
You're fine.
I'm going back to the original subject. But I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. I mean, it really depends on as we've seen tonight, there are different variables. If you're in a wheelchair, you may have a limited access to the types of items you can do. For instance, if you're in a town that only has one thrift store and it really sucks, I mean, you may have to be that guy that sells coffee mugs. And your profit margin may be lower, but you make up for it with quantity. If you have access to like I do, for instance, I do storage units, so I'm always finding weird electronics items that are worth $75 to $100 and up. Then my profit margins are a little bit different. It depends. It's wherever you're comfortable, and it kind of goes back to last week's show. It's about finding your niche, and all of a sudden you say, hey, I'm selling a lot of these items. I may not be making a lot of money, but it's adding up, and then run with it. Then run with it and go with it, and you have found your thing.
And don't let anybody make you feel bad about having low profit margins. If somebody says something to you about it, say, dude, it's my business. Step off, or just don't frequent that place anymore. Don't frequent that board or that group or whatever anymore, because it's your business. And if it's working for you and your family,
then it's not even a group. Sometimes people are just jerks.
Yeah, that's true.
It doesn't even have to do with a group, but it's like.
But I mean, you know what I mean. Like, there's sometimes people get that whole herd mentality, and as soon as one person says something snarky, then seems like a bunch of people jump on and say something. And I'm not speaking about any particular group. It's just, like I said,
no, but groups are really bad for the whole mob mentality thing, and and you don't know, but you hear somebody's story and you only get half the story because they say, I'm frustrated and I sold this week and this week and I'm not making any money. And then you look at their storefront and you're like, well, here's why you're not making any money, and you don't try to make fun of someone necessarily because they're only making this amount. You don't know their whole story. They might not have access. They might have, they might be the walking picker, for instance, that has to walk, so he only has so many, not to pick on people, that was awful, but
You're not.
No, I'm using different examples. You might have a life circumstance of why you can't get out and find these places or do other things. So, just do, like I said, do whatever's working for you and run with it.
I think a lot of it is that people care too much about what other people think, of their, their business or whatever, and you really don't need to care what other people think. At least that's my 2 cents.
But at the same time, if you're struggling to make ends meet and you're
my chair is wrong.
and you're saying, hey, what's wrong with me? What am I doing wrong? I mean, listen to constructive criticism, even if some of us tend to come across as harsh. We don't mean. I mean, I know personally my heart's in the right place. Can I be a smart ass? Yes, absolutely. But I wouldn't be, like, for instance, an admin in Reseller Society. I wouldn't be doing that. There's no pay involved. I wouldn't have accepted it, when they offered it to me. I wouldn't have done it if my heart wasn't in the right place, because I really do want to help people. I just have a really weird way of doing it. But, I want to see people succeed.
I think that's why, why I do haul videos. It's not to show off oh, look at what I can do. It's really because I try to explain why I bought it, why I bought that item. And I think it's helpful to get into somebody's brain about, okay, why did they pick that up? What is the research are they doing? I've passed by those things 10 times. Why did they buy it? And so that's why I like watching haul videos. I know, Danica, you said you don't like watching them, but I like watching them because I find something different that I'm like, oh, I never even would have thought about picking that up.
Oh, I learn something new every time I watch a haul video. I mean, it can be the worst haul video in the world from whoever, and I'll still learn, at least pick up some tidbit of information of, hey, I didn't know that brand, or I didn't know that whatever. I mean, it's a constant.
There's something new. Because you can't possibly look up everything in the store, and so if you can pick up off of somebody else's experience, you can find things that, you didn't know might be more profitable money there and make more money than you normally do.
It's not that I like to watch haul videos. It's just I like the I don't know. Like, I guess I like the results videos better because, you know, there was like kind of a rash of haul videos where it was like, hey, I got this for this and I'm going to list it for this, you know, and it was ones where it was just so completely outrageous. And you're like, no, you can try to list it for that, but there's no way you're going to get that. You know what I mean?
That's why I decided that I was going to start doing the, we had said in the ladies of reselling group that I was going to start doing the Flipped It Friday. You know, just doing follow-up videos of, you know, this is what sold this week, and this is what it sold for, and this is what I paid for it, you know. So that way it's kind of like a second follow-up to, like, the haul video of, you know, you saw it when I bought it, now it's sold.
Yeah. Well, and it's not that, like, I don't want to know what people are making. You know, we were talking about that. I don't want to know, you know, people's numbers or anything like that, but it's more like to know that the money is there from that product. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Like, I don't want anybody's business. I just wonder, does that item, does it really sell? That kind of thing. Everybody's internet is just being crazy. Are you back to stay?
Apparently, it's my computer that has issues tonight. I don't know.
It has been crazy. This one has been kind of crazy.
Well, and I want to go back. You know, we just started doing videos, and we only have, I don't know, 4 or 5 videos or something. I totally I'm like, do you ever have one of those moments where you kick yourself and you're like, damn it, why didn't I do that? I really should have been in the ER of that hospital when I broke my ankle making not a haul video. Yeah, hell yeah, I should have been like stealing rubber gloves and stuff. But no, I should have been at least doing a video because there's a couple people that are like, oh damn, you should have done a video. I was like, crap. But I'm to the point now, I would like to go back because our 4 or 5 haul videos that we've done, some of those items, a couple of them I was wrong on. You know, like the prosthetic leg thing, for instance, was one. I wasn't wrong on it, but I ended up accepting a lower offer because I was tired of tripping over it. And, you know, with my own injury, I was tired of looking at a prosthetic leg because every time I looked at it, it just pissed me off about my own ankle. And, you know, and like some Army hats that I had that I did a video about, they have not sold like what I thought they would sell like. So my model on those is going to change. My numbers were way off originally versus what I thought they would. I mean, I could still get those numbers out of them, but I don't want to be looking at them 2 years from now. So I'm going to change my model. So I want to go back. I just haven't figured out the whole how to do a screen share thing and do all that.
It's the green button.
Yeah,
I think like the haul video that I did today was different than any of the ones. I was trying a new format, and I was basically showing the comps of like what I looked up, why I bought it when I was at the store, you know, of what it was selling for on Amazon and what the rank was, and this is, you know, why I bought it, or this is like the pair of shoes, Dusty. You know, I went to that listing and showed that, you know, that this was what I based my purchase off of, and blah blah blah. So.
And I liked that, by the way.
Oh, did you watch it?
Yes. Well, Jeff just said something, and Sean, I think Sean did too, that that I stopped watching their videos, and I haven't. I just haven't been. Like, I've been watching them in the feed more than anything, so I haven't been commenting.
There's a lot of videos. I mean, you
really
can literally watch videos all day long and not catch everyone's video that you know.
Yeah.
You know, like,
well,
I mean,
I stopped commenting. You know, like very rarely. You know, I try to say something once in a while, but there's just so many. You know, there's so many videos to try to catch, and you can't comment on everything.
I really want to do like 60 days of selling nothing but coffee mugs. I'm serious. This would be an awesome experiment if I could actually get out and was a little more mobile right now and just try it and do it and see what happens. Buy 50 coffee mugs a day, list 50. I don't think I could do 100. I think I'd be insane.
Dude, do you know how hard it would be to do coffee mugs? Like, you know how hard it is to store coffee mugs? I used to do coffee mugs.
No,
and
no.
I would have like 100 coffee cups. Like 100 coffee cups is a lot of coffee cups to store.
But like go to the post office, go behind the post office, get postal totes, use those as your storage method. Have it embedded every time you list it.
Amazing, but it's
A2.
You guys are crazy.
to do cups, dude. It's not. They are in there clanking together, and they are heavy, and it's hard to move them around, and it's not. I mean, I did coffee cups for like 2 years.
Tristan will have your hide.
To store.
I mean, she doesn't even come in here. She's scared of this room, but she would have to probably help me clean them, and I'd have to, get her. She could totally take pictures. She's just never really done it. I'd probably have to her on
you're basically telling her
it would be better for you to do it like something else that's low dollar, like t-shirts.
Yeah, pick something different.
Pick not coffee cups. It's just because it's hard to store them.
I would tell you to do plush, but used plush freaks me out.
It takes so much room, too.
I mean, coffee mugs I could get passionate about. I guess that's why it's sticking in my mind. T-shirts I think is a really cool idea, but then it goes back to you can't really assembly line those as fast because then you've got a mannequin involved.
Oh, because you got to measure them and stuff.
True.
So
you literally sell only large T-shirts, and you can name your store like large T-shirts.
3X, 3XL.
But okay, here's another idea. What if you just went to every thrift store, 3X, and you only sold 3X clothing? I mean, bigger sizes, the size.
Oh, yeah, big sizes.
Big sizes, yep.
What if you only sold 3X clothing, and that was your route? You would.
What if you only sold teddy bears?
Teddy bears?
Yeah, what if you only had teddy bears?
No, that's just plush, man.
That's up there with clowns. No.
Oh, no. Oh, my mother had a painting of a clown that was in my room. Mom, I still hate that freaking creepy ass.
That's right. You put that niche in her room, and that was nightmares. Should have niched that bitch right out of her room. Did your mom really watch this? Because, this is going to go over awesome.
She does. My mom's awesome, though. But she can't figure out how to comment. Like, whenever she tries to log in, it does some, I don't know what she's doing wrong, but, yeah.
Yeah.
Love you, Mama. Could you imagine having to be my mom?
Tell her to sign up. Tell her to sign up for YouTube with the name, Cool Toads, too, and just to confuse everybody. Or, somebody like Jeff Davidson, but spell Davidson a little bit differently.
Davidson.
That would be awesome. All right, guys. 50 mugs of gray.
We have time for... Well, actually, we don't have time for anything. How about one question? One really, really good question.
Okay. Do I have to ask it? Or is it coming from the group?
It's coming from... I mean, unless you have a question on the top of your head.
I don't have one. I was trying to read. I was trying to look at the chat, and they've got me all confused. I don't know where we went wrong. Does anybody have any questions?
How long a delay is there? Now we got to wait 3 minutes to hear you say that.
Thrifty Teresa said, I sometimes get worried a buyer will find my videos and see me saying I paid $1 and sold it to someone for $35. Yeah. Wouldn't that suck?
Well, I did one. Awful. I did one recently on a Seiko diver watch, and I think I put Seiko diver. I can't remember if I put the model number in there because my thinking was, I could probably get YouTube views on that video based on. I thought, oh my god, because it was a fairly rare watch, and I'm like, holy crap, what if the guy that bought that goes back and sees that and realizes he paid $300 and I paid $10?
Wouldn't that suck?
Well, you know what? I took his offer. It should have sold for more. So you know what? Send it back. I'll give you your money back. I'll sell it for $400.
I never really thought about that though.
Is that our question we're gonna go with? All right, Larry. Who does our hair?
Who does your hair? Who does your hair, Dusty?
Obviously, no one. I have a really thin hair that dries really quickly. I just got out of the shower right before the show started, and I literally went gel, 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 and that was it. So, and it probably shows.
I went hair back, twist, clip, because I didn't straighten my hair, so it's all that funky, wavy stuff.
Deb, you're doing
that. Deb, who does your hair?
I cut my hair recently on Valentine's Day, so it's really short now.
Oh, you did?
So Deb does hair. Did I really just get involved in that conversation?
You really did. You are a woman.
Surprised my wife hasn't piped in from the other room yet.
They're talking about mugs. You guys are crazy. I just couldn't do it.
Wade's gonna do it. Wade's down there in Panhandle, Florida.
Oh, Wade, yeah.
Do it, Wade, and go to every one of Chad Pagel's thrift stores and buy all the good ones. Especially the Mission. Look for the Mission. I don't remember what it's called. The Gulf something Mission or something. Look for the Mission thrift stores and go there. They have good mugs.
The Mission gives good mugs?
The Mission gives good mugs before Chad gets them.
All right, guys. That is it for us for this week. We will see you all. I don't know if we got enough likes, but we'll see you guys Wednesday on the Reseller Wake Up. That one will be cool because it's the guy from Profit Bandit coming to talk about the guy will be there talking about Seller Engine and Celery. And what do we have? We've got Toadcast on Friday, Pickers Church and stuff is back. Meet and greet, that's right. Meet and greet on Wednesday.
Our show. On whatever, what's today? Sundays.
Is it Sundays? Okay. There's so many I can't keep up with. I think that's it.
That's it. I got my stitches out today. Woo!
Yay!
Then I start physical therapy on Thursday. I don't know what that means because I'm not allowed to walk on it. I think I just go in and wiggle my toes for an hour and pay money to do it.
It's going to be yoga.
So excited.
You're doing yoga in a chair.
I'm in like a removable cast now where I can, in 5 days, I'll be allowed to get that leg wet so I can take a real shower.
That was like the most awesome shower ever.
Oh, when the guy was cutting the cast off they were going to take X-ray, he's cutting it off with these shear things. I'm like, oh my God, that feels so good. Can I like scratch it for me? Like, yeah,
I remember when I got my cast off, and the best thing was like they gave me an alcohol pad to like rub it down, and I was just like, oh God, look at you like 8 weeks without scratching it, and they're like, you're gonna make your skin raw. I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah, it was. Then that first pedicure. That was the best. Okay. So we will see you guys.
And the green room, Yaya said the green room hangout. I think they're on Tuesdays, aren't they?
Yeah, they're on Tuesdays.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's the only Tuesday show.
I didn't know that they were. There used to be something else on Tuesday?
Meet and greets on Wednesday, and Pickers Church. Pickers Church is on Sunday, and I am now on Pickers Church, which is a really, really big honor. They asked me to do that, and I think that's really cool. So, and I enjoy it. We were talking about that before this started. It's kind of like how I enjoy this show because it's people and the audience is wonderful because it's usually the same people on the shows, and you get to know people, and I have a good, we have a good dynamic. I feel like, and enjoy the same stuff and kind of the same styles and all that. So
it's like hanging out with buddies.
Only guys though. All the shows are just guys. This is like the only girls show.
Wow.
Besides the Wake Up show.
Well, alrighty. So apparently I am one of them.
Oh, Dusty, you are one of the girls.
You're an honorary. It's because of Tristan. So you're like an honorary girl.
You must be asleep. She hasn't stuck her head in here yet.
Before.
Oh, she's reading a book. That's right. Right before the show started, she's like, "Can I buy a book on Kindle? It's only $10."
Oh my God! She asked you. I was just totally wrong.
Well, no, it's kind of one of those because we don't have credit cards, so everything's a debit card.
Like,
so
do you have a coupon?
PayPal, is there money on this? Do I need to use a credit union? And then we communicate about and when we don't communicate about purchases, that's when things go south. But we talk about stuff before we buy it. It took many years to get to that point, or for me, but we try to communicate.
More cute.
Yep. All right.
Cute. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Love you, Mom.
Bye, Mom.